Tombstone, Arizona Territories, October 26, 1881. It begins like so many other fights, with a boozy boast. It's 9 in the morning on a cold Wednesday. The bars have been open all night, and Ike Clanton hasn't stopped drinking. Later, he will of course sober up, and he will do so very quickly, but that of course is later. For now, he's drunk, belligerent, and shouting at anyone who will listen that he's going to kill Doc Holliday, a short-tempered former dentist with whom, for reasons that will probably never become fully clear, he's had a long-standing feud with. And it's in this particular moment that he's lit the fuse of a complex, multi-part powder keg that will explode in approximately 6 hours' time and echo into legend. The gunfight at the OK Corral. Thanks so much to Clanton and their new cooperative party game, Priorities, for sponsoring today's historical tale. Tombstone was founded in 1879 by an optimistic prospector named Ed Schifflin. Go prospecting in those hills, local folks told him, and all you're gonna find is your tombstone. Yeah, well, Ed got the last laugh, as during his endeavor he hit a seam of silver and became a very rich man. A mining camp sprung up swiftly after his find, and within 2 years, it became a prosperous and growing town. And in fond acknowledgement of his many doomsayers, Schifflin named the place Tombstone. It was a busy modern town, filled with bars, restaurants, brothels, and more bars. Yeah, people kinda drank a lot. There wasn't really much else to do with your free time around there. Of course, boredom and liquor often give rise to lawlessness, and where there's lawlessness, the law tends to follow. In this instance, it came in the shape of one Virgil Earp, who had enlisted his younger brothers, Wyatt and Morgan, as deputies. The evening Ike Clanton began mouthing off, Virgil had been policing the streets all night long. He's just exhausted and wants nothing more than to go home and sleep, but the news that Clanton is stumbling around threatening Doc Holliday keeps him out. Now, Virgil normally wouldn't care what nonsense a drunk bully like Clanton might spout, but Doc Holliday is a friend to the Earps. Though, more than that, Virgil also knows that Holliday has a well-earned reputation as a hothead who probably wouldn't think twice about gunning Ike down in the street. Frankly, Virgil doesn't want to have to deal with the paperwork around that, so he goes to find his brothers. He repeats what he's heard. Now, Virgil knows that Doc and Wyatt are friends, and Doc's the most likely to listen to Wyatt. So Virgil sets his brothers to task and goes home for what's probably the last good night's rest in his life. Wyatt and Morgan then go off to search for Doc, finding him at a card table in the Oriental Saloon. Now, John Henry Doc Holliday crossed paths with Wyatt Earp several times before joining him in Tombstone. Maybe those prior meetings were coincidence, or maybe destiny. Either way, Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday will be inextricably linked due to the events that take place later that day. But right this moment, a confrontation seems unlikely. Don't care what Clanton says, Doc reassures the Earps. He couldn't hit a barn door with a banjo. Don't worry none, boys. I'll be fine. He goes back to his game, winning and losing in equal measure. Though for a notorious gambler, Doc never makes his fortune. Whenever he wins big, he just gambles it all away again. He lives in the moment, and for good reason. He's 30 years old, his body is riddled with tuberculosis, and he's living on borrowed time. So he treats every day as a gift, and he's dang sure he will make the most of it. And perhaps, knowing his life's outlook, Wyatt and Morgan are not entirely reassured at Doc's response, but leave the former dentist to his card games and go on with their day, keeping one eye open. Elsewhere, Ike Clanton keeps drinking. Now, nobody ever quite put their finger on exactly why Ike Clanton was baying for Doc Holliday's blood, though there was some whispers that Wyatt and Doc had collaborated with Clanton on a probably less than legal money-making scheme. Ike got the idea that Doc was going to betray him to the authorities, started drinking, and then that idea became his reality. Actually, he'd aggressively confronted Doc the previous night, but nobody really noticed. See, because not a day went by in Tombstone without someone mortally offending someone else. Virgil had introduced a no guns within the city limits law that people occasionally adhered to, which meant that Doc and Ike's spat shouldn't really escalate beyond harsh language. Hence, Doc brushed off Ike with the disdain he felt he deserved. So there's a very good chance that Ike, Wyatt, and Doc were mixed up in something that they shouldn't have been. And while Wyatt and Doc were able to keep their mouths tightly shut, the neurotic Clanton simply could not. His own certainty that Doc was going to get him into trouble took over everything. Of course, it probably doesn't help that Ike was, to put it bluntly, not the brightest button in the box, and Doc did take pleasure in denigrating his intelligence by confounding the farmer with riddles and conundrums. Doc also considered himself too clever and sophisticated for Tombstone, and never thought twice about causing offense. Yeah, Doc Holliday was not a nice man. His illness is hard on him, and he numbs that pain with booze. This serves only to make him more angry, more bitter, and that means he's a man who frequently acts first and thinks later, often from behind cell bars. But back to Ike. Finally kicked out of the last bar in town, Ike has to quit drinking. Maybe he sleeps the worst of it off somewhere, or maybe he just goes home and knocks back a few more glasses of Old Overholt, but wherever he is, he exits stage left for now, leaving room for us to bring in the other players in this sorry tale. Tom McClary, Ike's friend, has heard what's going on and has come to town to see if he can help, or, as it's more likely, catch a piece of whatever action is going on. Unfortunately for Tom, he makes the mistake of running into Wyatt first, whose patience is easily tested. The two get into a disagreement, which ends, as many things do, with Wyatt pistol whipping him and dragging him into the courthouse for disturbance of the peace. Just one more bullet into the six-shooter of destiny. Okay, all of the pieces are nearly on the board. We have the three Earp brothers, we have Doc Holliday, we have Ike and Tom. All we need now is Tom's older brother, Frank, and Ike's baby brother, Billy. Those two are currently minding their own business, eating lunch at the Grand Hotel, and you know what? They're probably having a pretty nice day. When all of a sudden, someone crashes in to tell Frank and Billy that Ike is on the warpath and Tom has incurred the wrath of Wyatt Earp. That's probably when their nice day came to an end. Actually, there's something in the air in Tombstone today, and it's not just the chill or the snow. There's a sense of hush, kind of like the town taking a deep breath before plunging into a lake. Ike's friends go out hunting for him in hopes of sobering him up, but to no avail. So the Clantons and McClarys just meet up and begin to whisper in hushed tones, while the Earps meet at Haffer's Corner, whispering in hushed tones of their own. Destiny is hollerin', and the two factions are ready to answer the siren's call. Now it's around 3 in the afternoon when Doc saunters by, unaware or simply not caring that he's caused this tension. He's reminded about Ike's threats of murder, and once again, just shrugs it off. Then Virgil, perhaps foolishly, tells Doc that the brothers are going to find the Clantons and the McClarys. Doc wants in, but Virgil tells him there's no need for him to get involved. And here is where Doc's famous temper begins to flare up, at being told to stay out of business that is quite clearly his to be involved in. "That is a hell of a thing for you to say," Doc says to Virgil, to which Virgil concedes that Doc is too involved to actually not be involved. So he accepts Doc's offer to help watch their backs and swaps his shotgun with the dentist's walking cane. This allows Virgil to approach unarmed and thus appear conciliatory rather than threatening. "Now you're just there to back me up," Virgil tells Doc, pointing to the shotgun. "You understand?" Oh, Doc understands. A helpful passerby informs the lawmen that the Clantons and the McClarys were seen buying ammunition a little while ago, then headed off to collect their horses. Maybe, Virgil suggests, they're already leaving town. But the Earps decide it's best to make sure that they actually do leave. Walking in a line, with Doc whistling a cheerful tune and a shotgun concealed beneath his greatcoat, they all saunter down the street and into immortality. Now, there are countless fictional retellings of the altercation, and nobody will ever know the full facts. Heck, even Wyatt Earp, when pressed, couldn't remember the specifics. But one thing is for certain. In our next episode, 30 shots will ring out over Tombstone. One for each second of a legendary gunfight. Tick, tick, tick. But while that clock ticks down, and we debate all of these men's various priorities, might I interest you in a game to see how well your friends know yours? So, as you know, games are really in our blood here, and we're always very, very, very excited to tell you about a great game when we find one. You know, you might even say, it's our top priority. Thank you, I'll be here for the rest of this read. In all seriousness, Priorities is a heck of a lot of fun. It's this easy-to-learn party game of extreme truths and absurd choices, where each round, you and your friends are tasked with ranking 5 random items from love to loathe. For example, let's say I pull friendship, Taylor Swift, climate change, being right, and kittens. Would you be able to guess how I rank them? Any rankings you get right go to the players, and any you get wrong go to the game. That's right, it's a PvE experience, where you and your friends are working together against the game. Because whoever can spell out the word priorities with the letters on the back of the cards first wins. And I gotta say, after a few rounds, I learned that there's a bunch of stuff about my friends that still surprises me. You can snag your own copy of Priorities at your nearest Target, or if you'd like to prioritize your time, you can click here, and then afterward, why not rank another one of our videos here? The biggest beam thanks to Ahmed Ziad Turk, Angelo Valenciana, Arcalite Games, Dominic Valenciana, Izzy Coin, Joseph Blame, Kuya Koi, and Michael Hoggett for being our legendary patrons.